Welcome to Autism, God's Bright Kids, a show by angelarts.biz. Here on this podcast show, you will find encouragement in the midst of the challenge of autism. We will share stories of how God works in the midst of those affected by autism, as well as how He uses ordinary people to do extraordinary things. Because there is hope, there is life, there is love in the midst of autism. And here is your host, Dana Susan Beasley.
I am your host, Dana Susan Beasley, and this is April 30th, Tuesday, April 30th, 2024, and I am recording this. I'm recording this late. It's actually right at 4:30. I tried to do this live, but I guess that feature is not available. So here we go. I wasn't sure that I would be able to do this podcast because my husband and I have been traveling. But I had a canceled or postponed appointment today, so I thought I would go ahead and do it because Mother's Day is such an important and challenging event for mothers with autistic kids. And since Mother's Day is coming up soon, I thought that I would give you a heads up about that. All right, so let's talk about Mother's Day. Now, for myself, in the beginning years when my son was young, it was tough because there was hardly any acknowledgement or none. And in the beginning years, my husband was good about getting me gifts anyway, even though his mother had passed on early on in our marriage, like up to, Sam was in kindergarten, so about 7 years into our marriage, my mother-in-law passed. But yeah, he did some, but then as Sam got older, then my husband kind of took a step back and left it up to him, and which meant that oftentimes he did nothing. The worst Mother's Day I ever had, and really it was my fault, was that we had done a Mother's Day tea where we had an art show and a tea party and all this stuff, and I exhausted both my men so badly that when Mother's Day came the next day, they couldn't even think about it. And really, I can't blame them. But let me encourage you that it does get better. A couple of years ago, or in the last couple of years, actually, my son has really stepped up to the plate and given me gifts, and we've had a great time. He is 23 now, and he has learned to buy me a little gift and give me a card, or maybe even just in a gift bag, and so that has been great. Now I'm not expecting much this year because he just spent his savings on something that he felt was important, and we're going on a trip, so we'll see. But the point is, I think it's really important for us mothers to not have too many expectations. And really, the best thing to do is practice self-care for us. And here are some ideas that were inspired by Danny Rady of Asperger Experts. Self-care is the first step to getting your child functioning. It's like, when you are when you are on an airplane and they give you those instructions and say, put on the oxygen mask before you put it on a child. You need to learn to put on your oxygen mask. So how can we do it? Well, there's several areas. First of all, spiritual care. Feed your soul with good things. Think about the verse in Philippians 4:8. Whatever is lovely, whatever is beautiful, whatever is praiseworthy. And then read scripture and absorb your soul and your mind with positive messages. That will go a long way. And then reading your Bible is that's very important to me, and journaling. And also listen to podcasts and uplifting iHeartRadio podcasts. That will help. So that's the first thing that you need to think about as far as your self-care. The other thing, next thing, is exercise. And I know it's not always easy. My husband and I have been on the road, and then we're going on the road next week, so exercise has kind of been put back to the back burner, but it's something that is very important. I had a doctor's appointment with a possible functional doctor the other day, and he said, where do you want to be? What's your goal? Do you want to be an Olympic athlete, or do you want to be in a nursing home? Well, realistically, I'm not going to be an Olympic athlete, but I really don't want to go into a nursing home anytime soon. So any goal in between that would be great. So that was a really helpful way he put that. And what I find is I exercise best when I do what I enjoy. For us, that's going hiking. I've mentioned before that we love to go bigfooting, and that's a great family thing that we like to do together, and it's so much fun. So, do what you enjoy. And that really, the whole idea of bigfooting got me into hiking, which got me into the desire, it rekindled a desire to hike the Colorado Trail for 30 miles, not the whole thing. It's like 300 or 400 miles. It takes months. No, I don't want to do that. See, to me, that would be an Olympic athlete. I just want to hike 30 miles over the course of 3 to 5 days. And so that gives me the motivation to exercise because I can't do it in the physical shape I'm in right now. I have to build up to that. I have to work at it. But I have that goal, and that gives me the motivation. Now, as far as your kids, getting them to exercise, that can be difficult sometimes. Let me share with you a couple of resources. I know that there is a guy who does something called Autism Fitness. So you could Google that. And then if you want to combine spirituality and exercise, there is a great gal called Lorette Willis, Dr. Lorette Willis, and she does this thing called Praise Moves. And she has something called Praise Moves for kids. So it really gets kids moving. So that could be helpful too. So that's the second way to take care of yourself. And I'm going to take care of myself and drink water. So, eating healthy, that's a third way. And for me, that, we are so vastly different. It really depends on your preferences, your metabolic state, all sorts of things. So, for me, I have found that eating carbs, when I eat meals, eating something that's less than 10 carbs a time is what helps. I do something called dirty, lazy keto, and that seems to help me the most. And to try to stop eating when I'm full and eat when I'm hungry. Stopping when I'm full is tough. That's what I struggle with. But it's something that I'm trying to work on to lose the weight that is stopping me from doing like that hiking. In order to carry a backpack, I'm going to need to lose the weight that I have. And the thing is, once I lose it, carrying a backpack is going to be easy because really I carry around, sadly, a backpack every single day with my weight. So just whatever you do, listen to your body. For me, like coffee. I love coffee, but after about 1.5 cups, my body says, no, you can't have it anymore, and I have to listen to it. And I need to get better at listening to my body when it says stop eating. That's what I have a hard time with. So that's the third way for self-care. And then the fourth way is a support group. That is a really important factor of self-care. Lone Ranger moms, they get burnt out. And I know because I've been one. And I know it's hard, and it can be really isolating when you have a child with special needs. But even in just Facebook, there are so many opportunities to reach out, to be involved in a group with special needs mothers, and, to be able to rant or ask questions. That carried me through a lot of hard times, especially the group at Asperger Experts. If you go to aspergerexperts.com, they have a whole group within their website. So check them out. And then there are local groups. I know we have a local group. I haven't really gotten involved with that, but the thing that really has made a difference for us is church. We found a very welcoming church, and we are trying to get our son involved in the young adult group. The pastor, we met with him a month ago, and my son and I met with him, and so he knows our situation and how that my son has social anxiety, and he's going to try to help him transition into it. So, in fact, he texted me yesterday morning and said he was thinking about him and see how, he can get involved in some fun things that are happening in the summer. So just reach out. That's what I did. I told our pastor about him, and he was delighted to help. And that is a great resource. So, and sometimes, you have to make your own. That's what I did with Sam. I tried creating co-ops, and that didn't work. So then I created what I called Explorers Creativity Club, and that basically was just getting kids together to do some play-based learning. And that went well, and that got him some friends. And then when he got to high school, we made that into a live-action role-playing group, and I have spoken about that in other episodes. And that really helped him get out of his shell. And in fact, now he is my assistant. So having that support group for you is going to be an important way for you to take care of yourself, especially around Mother's Day, because you're not the only one. Believe me, trust me. You're not the only one who struggles with this around Mother's Day, not being acknowledged, not being told by your child that, they love you. I mean, these are some of the things that can happen and that do happen. Of course, it depends on the child because each child is vastly different. As I always say, if you've met one person with autism, you've met one person with autism. So that's the fourth way that you can get self-care. The fifth way for self-care is to give yourself some breaks. Now, when I was growing up, my mother, I was the youngest of 5. So on Mother's Day, my mother, she didn't want to be a mother on Mother's Day. She got a break. That's when she did something for herself. I mean, I barely remember this, but that she wanted a break on Mother's Day. So that's what she did. And also, the truth was, her mother had died, in 1980. So Mother's Day was hard for her. But yeah, so give yourself some breaks. It's not easy, especially when you have young children. And I will tell you, we did that. We did not give ourselves enough breaks when Sam was young, and it almost ruined our marriage. It was devastating. There were some really bad consequences for not doing that. And I know it's really hard to give yourself breaks, especially to find somebody to take care of your special needs child so you can have a break, especially a date with your spouse. That's tough. I get it. But it's important to make those connections and to find those resources that will help you. And that's where building a community is so important. Even if you build a community with other mothers and you trade with them, that's a very good way to go about it. There's other people in your situation. So form those bonds, form those relationships, and trade with other mothers. Another thing that's out there, if you find the resources, is respite organizations. I know there was a place here called Zach's Place that would take care of kids with special needs. So find a respite organization, look in resources in your town. I know we have one called Resource Exchange. So find those resources and you might find some respite organizations. And then this I found very important. When Sam was young, when he was a toddler and above, I found I had to set a routine. I had to set a quiet time. I didn't insist that he sleep, but I did say, okay, this is time to be in your room, time for quiet, so that I could have a quiet time. And then the other thing to do is to get up earlier than your kids. Now, that might be really hard if they're They're very early morning birds. Mine is not. He has always been a late sleeper, so I was lucky that way, and I am not a morning person. But finding that time is really, really important. And then, so that's a little bit about self-care that maybe will help you feel a little bit better about Mother's Day. Now, just a few other pointers from my experience now that my son's 23, and that is being clear about your expectations and desires with your children. You know, giving them your preferences. You know, I would like it if you would blah, 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 whatever it is. And of course you have to make it realistic for that child. Or making a special plan if you want to celebrate Mother's Day together, and making it yourself or expressing your wishes to your husband and your children, and not just vaguely expecting them to get it, because children and husbands don't. I have found from the beginning of dating my husband long ago that I had to tell him exactly what I was wanting and desiring and needing, because he couldn't read my mind. He's not a mind reader. And it's not realistic of me to expect my son and husband to just get what I want, just to read my mind. It's not realistic. And so I learned that I had to tell them exactly. And, you know, maybe you feel like that takes away the surprise and the spontaneity, but there's just things that we need to let go of. And that might be one of them in your case. I don't know. But telling them your expectations up front, making them, of course, realistic. I mean, I wouldn't tell your 5-year-old, oh, I want a diamond ring. I mean, that's kind of silly. Maybe say, you know, would you make me a little handmade cards? I love your handmade cards. You know, something like that. Something simple. Something that they can do. And if they try and they don't get it right and it's not perfect, then just love it anyway and love them anyway. It's all right. And even if they want to do it, but something happens, you know how it goes when you have an autistic child. Something goes wrong and they're off. They have an off day, and like maybe they have an emotional outburst and it's a really tough day. Just try your best to let it go and know that you are a great mother. And that one of these days, your child is going to realize this. I know that my son has. And we have a great relationship. And that a lot of that is because I really got involved in my son's obsessions like LARPing and Bigfooting. And so we spend a lot of time together doing these activities, and we have a great relationship. Will he give me a Mother's Day gift? I don't know. I'm going to have to see about that, you know, but I'm not going to expect very much at all. It's not really about the gift. It's about being with the person that you love and spending time as a family. So that to me is the most important. So I hope that helps. I hope that encourages you. I know it could be really difficult when your children don't acknowledge you or don't even say that they love you. I mean, my son won't say it. It's kind of a joke with us now. I'll say, I love you, and he'll be like, you know, that's how my father is too, though. So it's okay if they don't say that, but what is matter is actions speak louder than words. And so when you see those actions that they love you, then it means the world to us, right? Just spending time with your children is so valuable. Doing things that you enjoy, and make sure that they know that. Do things that you enjoy, you know. So, like I said, I hope that encourages you and that you can have a really good Mother's Day. And I wanted to get this out now because next week I'll be traveling to see my father-in-law. And, I wanted to give you time to think about it because Mother's Day is May 11th and this is April 30th. So that gives you a little bit of time to think about it, absorb it, and to make some plans. So, and that's the other thing, be proactive about it. Don't just wait till the day of Mother's Day and then go, woe is me because nobody acknowledged me. My children didn't acknowledge me. Start thinking about it. Start talking about it as a family, with your spouse, with your children, and just have a discussion about it and start getting some ideas and make a plan. And, it could be as simple as going for a drive. I know we often do that for Father's Day. We will go for a drive and have a picnic in the mountains. We do that a lot. Or we'll do that for my husband's birthday. So think about that. And one last thing I want to say is I know it's hard for those of us who are in the sandwich generation who have children who we take care of, and then we have parents. It's particularly mothers on Mother's Day, and that's my case too. And so I have to think about that. And like I said, Mother's Day for my mother has always been hard because she lost her mother when she was fairly young, in her 40s. So, it's tough for her. And so I have to think through those things too, and then meet your needs as well as the needs of your own mother. It can get very stressful. So just think through those things and what would be best. Like a couple of years ago, we arranged to have a barbecue at a park near where my parents live. And so my son obviously came. We all came and had this Mother's Day event in a park. And it was a lot of fun. And so that way everybody gets to have fun. All right, I'm going to stop rambling around. Oh, one more thing. I think that I mentioned, and a lot has happened in a week, so it's hard to remember, but I think that I mentioned this story about a guitar. And I mentioned that I was going to go see if this guitar was available. Well, guess what? It was. So I bought it. And it's beautiful. I've been playing it a lot. I took it down to Albuquerque when we visited family. My sister-in-law helped me get a few things with my voice and the guitar straightened out. And so really enjoyed it. And I'm going to be singing at an assisted living place on May 23rd. But yeah, that guitar was there and it was such a blessing. And so, that was a huge gift to myself. If I get nothing else for Mother's Day, that to me is a huge Mother's Day gift. So anyway, yeah, that's what happened. I have it. I love it. Maybe one of these days I'll actually sing a song and record it for you. I don't really have time today because I'm expecting some sitters to come over and so much going on. But I thought, well, they didn't show up. They're going to show up later, so I might as well do this show. All right, so I am really going to stop rambling on, and hopefully I will have time to record a show before I go on our trip to see my father-in-law. And I'm trying to think, so I will be talking about art for autistic kids, and these will be out-of-the-box homeschooling ideas. So that's what I'll talk about. So hopefully I can get that recorded, and it will go on next Tuesday. All right. So thank you for listening to today's episode. Be sure to tune in on May 7th. So that's all I will say as I wind down. Together, We will reach new heights in our lives and beyond because there is hope, there is life, there is love, even in the midst of autism. Blessings to you. This is Dana Susan Beasley signing off.